Electronic Resources and Metadata Manager here at Waters Library. And this is my colleague.
Hi, I'm Ashley Height, and I'm the Systems and Discovery Librarian here at Waters Library. And today we are joined by Zephyr Rankin, who so nicely said that he would moderate for us. And we are actually going to record this session. So if you would like to keep your microphone and video off, that is totally fine. Zephyr, do you mind starting the recording?
It started.
Okay, sorry about that. Usually it announces it. Thank you. We will have time at the end of the presentation for questions and answers, but if you would like to put a question in the chat, Zephyr can let us know if there are any questions. All right, let's get started. Okay, today for our objectives are to explain the importance of accessibility in digital content and describe common practices to make presentations more accessible. We do have a text-based outline for this presentation. You can scan the QR code, or there will be a link in the chat for you to use. And I will talk more about the text-based outline later, but as we go along, you can follow us if you would like. Everyone a second to kind of scan if you have time. And Joe, things are running really slow on my side. Do you mind clicking?
I sure will.
Thank you. The first thing we're going to talk about is accessibility itself. Can you go to the next slide? Thank you. So why should we care about accessibility? First of all, it's the legal thing to do. In April of 2024, the Department of Justice updated the regulations for Title II of the Americans with Disabilities Act, also usually called ADA. The new rules ensure that state and local governments create and maintain their web content to WCAG version 2.1 level 2A standards. For most government entities, this rule goes into effect in April 2026, so in about 6 months. WCAG stands for Web Content Accessibility Guidelines and is developed by W3C, the World Wide Web Consortium, who creates these standards. For more information, there is a quick reference guide that can be found on w3.org, and we link to it in the outline. The other reason of why we should care about accessibility, it's my favorite reason, is that it's the right thing to do. All members of the ETAMU community should be able to access all digital content created by the university. This means we need to keep in mind that some people may be using screen readers, some need to use keyboard navigation, some need high color contrast, and some need captions on all audio content. We do not want inaccessible web pages, presentations, or class lessons to come between someone and their educational and research needs. And I have a colleague who said it best when he stated that this work is worth it, even if it only helps one person. As a side note, really quick, here at Waters Library, we have decided that the web content that we control, we would like to achieve the WCAG 3A level whenever possible. This was done in part to maintain access and equity, which are two core values of the library profession, and also to get a head start in case ADA Title II updates again in the next few years.
I will be sharing some general design guidelines that you can use to make your presentation more accessible. So we will be starting with text. You'll want to choose a sans serif font and something that is large and easy to read. There's no standard rule for presentation font size. However, the average recommendation seems to be at least 24 points. You will want to be aware that different programs calculate font size differently. So 24 points in PowerPoint is smaller than the text size on this presentation, but it's still readable. However, 24 in Adobe Express is incredibly tiny and would be pretty difficult to read even on a good size monitor screen. You'll also want to think about how to lay out your slides with a clear title and then the information below it. And try not to overcrowd your slides. If you're creating a presentation, you want your slideshow to highlight the most important notes from what you were speaking about. You don't have to fit every word that you plan to say verbally onto your slide. And this also leads to leaving some space at the bottom for captions, which Ashley will discuss later. Especially when you are creating text, you'll want to make sure that there's high contrast between the color of your text and the color of your background. In the demonstration portion, I will be showing how to use a color contrast checker in order to assist with this. The other guideline that I would recommend is not to rely only on color to highlight a point. For instance, if you have a slide where you have two categories of words, and one of the categories, all of the words are in green for good and red for bad, but you don't have any other context or text explaining the difference between those, it could be really difficult for someone, for instance, with red-green color blindness, to understand the meaning that you are trying to convey. For those folks, red can appear green and green can appear a light yellowish green. And so that might be hard to differentiate you're trying to communicate. And then data visualization. Create a title and a description for your visualization. Worst comes to worst, and someone, can't see or make out the visualization that you have created, they'll at least have a title and a 1 or 2 sentence description that shows the point that you are trying to convey with the data. You'll also want to consider direct labeling in the legend, which I will show on the next slide, and maybe even creating a separate slide for your visualizations. If you've put in the work to, create your pie chart or your bar graph, but it's so small that nobody can see it, then it's a little bit of a wasted effort. And there's also different ways to differentiate your data. Just in case your, maybe your presentation is printed out for people who are attending in person, but it's only printed in black and white. So you might not be able to communicate with colors. So can you use thin breaks between your chart, solid borders, patterns? For instance, this is a very important pie chart that I have made, and I've used direct labeling in order to show the information and the data point directly next to the wedge of the pie chart.
I wanted to talk about alt text. With a few exceptions, all non-text content should include descriptive alternative text. This image on the left is a screenshot from Wikipedia of Abraham Lincoln with the alt text in green font. I use the image alt text viewer browser extension to see the alt text on the screen. Without the use of the extension, we wouldn't see the alt text because it's coded in, but a screen reader would. If an image is purely decorative, such as the one up in the left-hand corner, you can leave alt text blank, leave it null, and the screen reader will skip it. It's decorative, it's not adding any information. Thank you. Earlier, I told you I would explain why we use text-based outline, and we gave you a link to ours, and if you're able to follow along with it, we strongly suggest providing this kind of outline for your audience because they can be used to keep you organized as you prepare your presentation. But also with an outline, you can use headings that help your audience understand the hierarchy of your topic and keep your work structured. Text-based outlines also provide a clutter-free design and are screen reader ready, and this doesn't distract or overwhelm with too much color or too many images. Microsoft Word makes it really easy to use a heading structure for your outline, and if you are using PowerPoint, you can upload an outline and use it to create your deck. Next one, please, Joe. If your presentation includes audio, both verbal and nonverbal, that gives information to understand what you are communicating, then you should provide captions for your audience. Captions also are called subtitles and are used for the hard of hearing and also for those who process written content better than audio. If your audio isn't providing information that is needed to understand the visuals, for example, you're just playing a music clip in the background, then you don't need to provide captions. Creating captions can be kind of daunting. However, there are several options for captioning that are available. For instance, the Zoom is making a transcription as we speak, but we will take this presentation and upload the files and use Adobe Premiere to edit before uploading to YouTube. And Adobe Premiere can create a separate file with our captions, but we always edit them for accuracy, excuse me. It is important to point out that automatic captions will need to be checked. Do not assume they're accurate. Use of images. Never use an image of a text unless it is only for a decorative purpose and does not convey important information that isn't available somewhere else in your presentation. As mentioned earlier, do not forget to use alt text for images. If you would like more information about alt text, webaim.org has a lot of information to get you started, and you can find a link of that in the outline. It's also best not to use images that blink or flash. However, if you really need to use something like a sticker or a GIF, make sure it does not flash or blink more than 3 times per second to ensure you meet level 3A standards.
All right, we have come to the demonstration portion, and I will be showing you how to use a color contrast analyzer, a WCAG checker, and Adobe Express, and also getting into Google Slides and Adobe Acrobat. All right, so I am on the Adobe Express Color Contrast Analyzer, and this is really cool because you can choose your text color and your background color here. So, you know, I think, maybe we want something that is a white text on a blue background. And, we choose something that I think looks okay. But in this checker, you can see that the contrast ratio is not high enough to meet WCAG 2A standards. It's not high enough for regular text, for large text, or for graphics. So on the right-hand sidebar, there are some different suggestions of other colors that you could use. So I like the white text on a blue background, and I'm going to click apply, and it chooses a new background color that it knows will work and adhere to the WCAG standards. This does pass for 2A, but we can check 3A and see how it does. And it says that it fails for regular size text. So over on the right-hand sidebar, again, we can click one that we think looks okay. We can see now that it passes in all 3 categories. The other thing I want to show you is their colorblind safe tool. So this tool is really neat because you can enter in your hex codes if you have them for a particular project, and you can also, move these around and, choose different colors that you want for your color palette. And so these 3 little white bars on this main palette here shows that there might be some conflicts in these colors and how they're perceived for somebody with different types of color blindness. And so it shows the 3 types down here. And then it shows that, these 3 colors, even though I see them as blue, pink, and purple, somebody else might see them as really similar color. And, since they're not high contrast, then it's really difficult to differentiate. And then I did choose a green and a red just so you can see, if you are using, only colors such as red and green to highlight an important, point about your data, that might not be, fully understood by someone with these types of color blindness. So now I'm going to go into Adobe Express. And I'm going to show you the WCAG checker in there. So up here, I am going to say, I want to create a presentation. And I have my presentation template. Here on the left-hand sidebar, I'm going to click a template that I like. And I see this and I'm like, okay, this looks, okay to me. It's large text. I can see it against the background. The second one, it's a little bit smaller. Also, just to show, this is set to 28. So 24 here is pretty small. So that's what I was mentioning earlier. You'll want to be aware of how different programs are calculating the font size. So if I go back here and I want to do, just a double check, like, does this adhere to WCAG standards? If you go on the left-hand sidebar down to add-ons and search for your add-on, you'll want to select the one that says WCAG checker and open it. So you can select your text and assign it as the foreground, and you'll just want to hit confirm. And then page background will just pull the background color that is set across your presentation. Do page background. And you can see over here on the right-hand sidebar that it is not compliant for 2A or 3A standards. And again, on the sidebar, it has suggestions for how you can improve your color choices. So let's say that I want to go ahead and pick maybe this 3A1. It still has the white text, but it's a darker blue. So what you'll want to do is here, go to background color because I want to change that background. And then you can click the eyedropper tool. Give it a second. And then, oops. Don't click other things as you are attempting to click the color you really need. So pull it down here and select that color and it changes your background. And then you can, reassign your page background to see if it complies, or you can say, that's really close to a color I'd like, but what if I, made it, just a little bit darker or a little bit more blue, and you can reassign it and then see whether it complies. And this one does. The other thing I want to show you while I am here is that you can, when you select download, you can download your presentation with or without accessibility tags. And when I show you Adobe Acrobat, I'm going to show you a version of our presentation that has accessibility tags and does not have accessibility tags. And next, I am going to go to Google Slides. So this is our presentation, Google Slides, a very short version of it. Again, very importantly, featuring my cat. One of the features that is available is arranging the order of your items on your Google slide. So all of these are considered layers, and when you select this text box and then you right-click on it, you can adjust the layer order. So, I can bring it to front, I can send it to the back. And if I want a screen reader or other assistive technology to read this title first, then I'm going to send it to the back, and that means that it will be read first. So this, can get complicated if you have a whole bunch of things going on in your slides, which is just another reason to simplify them. You can also add alt text to your images by selecting your image and right-clicking and selecting alt text. And then down here is where you can create your alt text. Next, I will be showing Adobe Acrobat. This is a version of our presentation that I downloaded without accessibility tags from Adobe Express. On the left-hand sidebar, there are all of the tools that you can use in your PDFs. And I'm going to scroll all the way down and say, prepare for accessibility. I'm going to select check for accessibility, and it will bring up this pop-up. And here you can see all of the different things that this checker will be looking for. And I'm going to say start checking, and it goes through it really quickly. And you can see that there are several different issues with this presentation. Pretty much all of these categories, have at least something. So the neat thing about Acrobat is that you can expand these and you can click on these different things. So for instance, this one, I am going to right click on it and select explain. And that brings up this Adobe help page, and it's going to explain, what it's looking for and how to fix it. And then I can also right click and click fix. And it went ahead and tagged the PDF for me. So if you forgot to do that in, when you're downloading from Adobe Express, there's that. And to try another one, this one, it needs me to, set the reading language, which is in English. So I can click OK. For title, I can fix this and I can type in our title and put in, myself and Ashley as authors if I'd like. And same with alt text is I can go in and add alt text here. And it will go ahead and highlight the items that it wants alt text added to. So if we scroll through this, I think it's really easy to see on this page where it is highlighting the picture of Ashley. And when I click next, it highlights the picture of me. On this page, I could mark this one as decorative figure because there's no information that somebody would need to know in that picture. In this other version of the slideshow that I downloaded with accessibility tags, it just takes out some of those, a couple of those steps. I'm going to again do prepare for accessibility and check for accessibility. I'm going to run the same report, and you can see that there are far fewer issues that need to be fixed. Okay, now give me just 1 second as I stop sharing and give control over to Ashley.
And we are going to go into PowerPoint. This is just an etamu template that I pulled from Marcom's website that any of us can download and use. I added our title and subtitle. There were just placeholders here for today's workshop. And then it came with these other 2 slides that can be used. I also added this photo down here to this slide right there. So here I am in PowerPoint, and it's very easy to do an accessibility check. So first of all, I'm going to go to review, click on that, And then to check accessibility, I can click on this down arrow and I can check the different types of accessibility, or I can check all of it at the same time. So over here in the right panel, it is telling me that I have some problems. So first of all, it is saying you don't have any alt text. It takes me to the issue. It also tells me why it's an issue and then how to fix it, which is very nice. You don't have to leave, you don't have to click on anything. It can just be right there to tell you what to do. So I'm going to add our alt text in. Now I don't have to save anything. I could generate a description if I needed to, or I could mark it as decorative if that's what it was. So here it is now saying that my accessibility issues are that I am missing slide titles, which you need. Again, this goes back to an outline, and you can create an outline and import it into PowerPoint, and it'll create a slide for each one. So here it's going to take me here. Here's the issue. Slide 2 needs the title. So I'm going to exit out of here. And now I am in outline view. If I want to go back to thumbnail view, which is where I was before, I hit Control-Shift-Tab. That goes to thumbnail. I can continue working on my PowerPoint presentation, and it is still doing accessibility checks in the background. Right down here, you can see down here at the bottom on the left side, Accessibility Investigate. I'm going to click on that, and it brings up my accessibility panel again. And it's saying, oh, hey, you are still missing a slide title. And I am. So there we go for that. I'm going to close on that, and I'm going to get back to working on my presentation. I want it in thumbnail view, Control-Shift-Tab. And now I'm back in thumbnail, and now my accessibility is good to go. And as I add slides, it will continue to check accessibility. If I want to turn that off and just check it all at the end, I can go here and I can click on this on this little checkbox right there. And that is how I would do that. Here we go. So right now I'm just going to go to questions and answers. Does anybody have any questions?
Hi, I have a question. Can you hear me?
Mhm.
Could you say a little more about the adding captions portion? I know you mentioned it, but I may have missed the details.
So he asked about captions, and just to say a little bit more about that. And yeah, I mean, I think that, we just want to make sure that captions are available for those who need them. And one of the important things to do is to go through any automatic captions that are generated and be able to edit those and audit them depending on the technology tries to do the best that it can to capture what it thinks that we are saying, but it's not always correct. So that's just one of the most important things that we do.
And you would recommend the automated captioners in Adobe Express, or is there another utility you like?
I like to use Premiere and to do all of the editing there. And if you ever want any more in-depth training on that, we can definitely set up something and go through it.
Great.
Yeah,
Thanks so
as
much.
far
That's
as
something I was wondering about recently.
Yeah.
Yeah, as far as I know, Adobe Express it doesn't have a way to do captions.
I don't think so.
If I can
Def-
jump in real quick.
Think
Yes.
so.
Adobe Express has the ability to create open captions, which are burned into a video, but can't create closed captions like you would see on like YouTube or Panopto or something like that.
Do we have any other questions?
This is kind of a follow-up, but Brandy in chat did say, should we caption within Adobe or Panopto? What's best?
Except
I
I hate
have
to do
not
that, but yeah, I haven't used Panopto.
Yeah, I can speak to that a little
Yeah.
bit. I
Awesome.
also prefer to use Adobe Premiere to make my captions. I just find that automatic caption generator is the easiest for me to use and tends to have the most accurate auto caption. So there's less editing that I need to do, but the Panopto one is pretty good. If you're not going to be putting your video in Panopto though, if you're creating a video like all of ours that go into YouTube, Premiere is the ideal because that's where we're editing the video. But if you are editing in Panopto and that's where you want your video to be hosted, then it is kind of easier to keep everything in one place.
Do we have any other questions? Okay, well, this slide has a little bit more of our contact information. If you have any questions or would like to learn a little bit more about something, please reach out to us. And I wanted to tell Zephyr, thank you very much for moderating at the last minute. We really appreciate it. And thank you everyone who came today. We are glad that you took time out of your day to come and hear about accessibility and presentations.
Thank you, everyone.